Hello, my dear. How are you? I hope you're fine. I'm teacher Renan Michel, and today we're going to talk a little bit about present continuous, which is a basic verb tense, but you see that it turns out to be a very important verb tense. Let's get started. Every time we want to say what we are doing at a specific moment, for example, right now I am working. I am teaching you grammar. I am speaking. What else is happening? Can you think of things that are happening at this very moment? For example, we could say that the earth is revolving around the sun. We could say that some birds are singing. We could say that someone is sleeping right now. All these sentences that I'm using, present continuous is in all of them. Why? Because I am describing something happening right now, and every time you want to do so, you have to use present continuous. So, let's get started. We use present continuous for actions that are in the middle. Look, when I say, I am working, I haven't finished working yet. I am still working. The action started a little before now. Right now, it's in progress and it will continue happening for some time. So that is the correct usage for present continuous, an action that is in the middle. For example, Kate is learning Italian. So she's not fluent in Italian. She's still studying. She's still learning. That's present continuous. Another usage for present continuous is actions happening right now, as I already said, or actions happening temporarily. Maybe this is not happening right now. Maybe the action we want to express is not happening at the moment of our speaking. For example, I am reading a very good book by Ernest Hemingway. But can you see, the book isn't the book here with me right now? No, the book isn't. I am not reading it right now, but I am reading it now in terms of being a temporary action. I started this book 3 days ago. Probably I will finish it in 2 or 3 days. You see, I am in the middle of reading, so this is present continuous. Okay? Now that you already learned how to use it, when to use it, in which situations to use it, let's learn some of its structures. First things first, there isn't present continuous without verb to be. You will need to use verb to be if you want to talk about something that is happening right now. And of course, you already know the forms for verb to be. Right? We have am, we have are, and we have is. And am, is, and are, they are distributed according to the correct subjects. Very, very simple. So, the correct structure is always a verb to be, like I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, you are, they are, plus a verb. This is the principal verb, the most important verb. This important verb always carries this ing particle at the end. Okay? So we get the verb and we add ing. Let's see some example verbs here. Look, this is the verb work. If I want to use the verb work in the context of something that is happening right now, I need to add ing to it. So working, working, working. Observe that the pronunciation is very important. We do not pronounce ing. We don't say working. That doesn't exist. Or if we combine ing, the pronunciation will be similar to this phoneme here. Ing. Repeat after me. Ing. So we say working, working, not working. We don't pronounce the G. We swallow the G. Swallow, okay? Again, working. What about study? It finishes in Y, teacher. Do I have to change the Y? No. If you're adding ing, you simply add ing. Studying, studying. It's a nasal sound. Run. Oops, here we have something different. Look, run finishes in a consonant, a vowel, and a consonant. When this happens in English and we want to add anything at the end of the verb, it can be anything, any suffix you want. You have to double the last consonant. So here we had only one N, but when I am adding this ing particle, I need to double it. So I'll write another N here and then ing. You understand what happened? Because it finishes in a consonant, vowel, consonant, I had to double the last consonant. Running, running. Dance. Oops, another something interesting. It finishes in E already, so I have to drop this letter E so I could add ing. Okay? So, some rules that we have seen so far. If the verb finishes in Y, nothing changes, we only add the ing particle. If it finishes in a consonant vowel consonant like run, we need to double the last consonant before adding ing. But if it finishes in E, we drop this letter E and we add ing. Okay? These are the 3 rules you need to know for now. Watch. If you want to say that you are doing this right now, you don't say I watch, you will say I am watching. ing. Have. You see that here with have, the same thing that happened with dance happens here. We drop this E and we add ing. Looking, ing. And begin. Look. CVC. Consonant, vowel, consonant. Do you remember what we have to do? We double the last consonant and we add ing. Beginning, beginning. Okay, let's try and repeat all these verbs together. Working, studying, running, dancing, watching, having, looking, and beginning. Of course, I exaggerated a lot the pronunciation, but this is for you to learn, okay? So, you already know in which situations to use, how to transform a base verb into an ing form. Now let's talk about the structures. As I said previously, it's impossible to use present continuous without verb to be. So it is an opportunity for you to review verb to be as well. So we have the affirmative, the negative, and the question forms. Let's go through all of them. First, sometimes it's a little difficult to understand what native speakers are saying because in this case of present continuous, verb to be becomes an auxiliary verb. And as every auxiliary verb, they are pronounced very quickly, very fast. So if you want to say, eu estou trabalhando, you say, I am working. I am working. The problem is that, as I said, verb to be here becomes an auxiliary verb. We're not going to pronounce it as I am. Most frequently, we will pronounce it as I'm. I'm working. I'm working. I'll even write this here. I'm working. And then you will contract am. So you would say, I'm working. Then, you are. Let's say, você está estudando. In English, you are studying. You are studying. But as I said, pronunciation here will change. So instead of saying you are, we will say you were. You were. You were studying. You were studying. I'm working. You were studying. Next one. He is. Let's say ele está correndo. He is running. But again, when we are speaking in our day-to-day life, we're not going to say he is. We will just say he's. He's working. Oh, he's running. He's running. I'm working. You're studying. He's running. He's running. The same happens with she. She's. Let's say ela está dançando. She's dancing. She's dancing. She's dancing. Repeat after me. She's dancing. She's dancing. It is. Remember that we use it for everything that's not a human. Like if I want to talk about my dog, but I love my dog, so I'll use he for my dog. But let's say a random dog, a street dog that I don't know, I would just say it. It. It is looking. I don't know. O cachorro está me olhando. It is looking at me. Looking. Again, when we're speaking, we drop this and we put an apostrophe S. So it's looking. It's looking. We are, instead of using we are, we will just say where. 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 We're having lunch, for example. Nós estamos almoçando. We're having lunch. You are, the same that happened in the singular form will happen in the plural. You were, let's say, you are beginning, você está começando, you are beginning. And finally, they are, let's say that they are, eles estão assistindo, they are watching. The pronunciation here will be there. They are watching. They are watching. Let's repeat just the contractions of verb to be with me. I am, you're, which is the same as you are. He's, his, the same as he is. She's, the same as she is. It's, the same as it is. We're, the same as we are. You're, you are. And they're, the same as they are. Okay? Let's try and read all of them very quickly. I'm working. You're studying. He's running. She's dancing. It's looking. We're having lunch. You're beginning. They're watching. Okay? Much easy. Very, very easy, right? Now, the negative form. Observe that it's possible to write the negative form in some different ways. This is the formal way, the most perfect form, in which you will write the verb to be plus not. So I am not, you are not, he is not. And as we are using present continuous, after that you have the verb with ing. Let's try and put all these sentences in the negative. Estou trabalhando, I'm working. Não estou trabalhando, I'm not working. Please don't confuse this with all the other verb tenses. Some students, they confuse and they write don't, for example. I don't working. Man, this is not good. This is not correct because you're mixing up verb tenses. For this verb tense, present continuous, to talk about actions that are in the middle or happening right now or happening temporarily, you never use don't. You have to use a verb to be in the negative, okay? So instead of I'm working, I'm not working. You are studying, you are not studying. But Renan, come on, you told me that this is not the way that people use when they are speaking. Yes, it's correct. This is the way we use when we are writing. When we are speaking, it's very common to transform I am not into I'm not. I'm not. You are not, we can either transform you are into by putting an apostrophe at the beginning and saying you are not, but it's even more common to do the following. we contract are not in a way that it is pronounced aren't, aren't, aren't. A lot of students pronounce this as aren't, but aren't doesn't exist, my little student. We do not pronounce this letter E here. We just jump from R into N. So we say aren't, aren't. You aren't. He is not becomes isn't, isn't. She's not, isn't, she isn't. It is not, it isn't. And if you're speaking American English, probably you hear this happen all the time. It isn't, it isn't, it isn't. Because when we are speaking fast in American English, we tend to transform all the T's and D's into rareriroru sounds. So instead of saying it isn't, which sounds very British, we could use it isn't, it isn't. We are not becomes we aren't. You are not becomes you aren't. And they are not becomes they aren't. And of course, the principal verb comes with ing. So let's see how the pronunciation works for the negative of all these sentences. So instead of saying I'm working, you will say I'm not working. You're studying, you aren't studying. He's running, he isn't running. She's dancing, she isn't dancing. It is looking, it isn't looking. We're having lunch, we aren't having lunch. We aren't having lunch. You're beginning, you aren't beginning. You aren't beginning. And they are watching, they aren't watching. They aren't watching. All right? And now we have the question form. Okay, come on. If you have verb to be, you already know that verb to be must come before the subject in questions. So instead of using I am, you will use am I. Are you, is he, is she, is it, are we, are you, are they. Guys, in this case, there isn't such a thing as a contraction. We do not contract the verb with the subject in questions, okay? But there is something very interesting. A lot of students, they think that by just putting verb to be at the beginning of the sentence, the problem is solved. You're creating a question. The rule doesn't say that. The rule doesn't tell you to put the verb at the beginning of the sentence. Occasionally that happens a lot, but the rule says you need to put the verb before the subject. So, if you have a WH question, for example, such as, what are you doing? You see, this is a question, but verb to be is not at the beginning of the sentence, because that's not the rule. The rule says it must come before the subject, and the subject is here. Verb to be is before the subject, it's correct. Be careful with that. I've seen this happen a lot. We do not put the verb in the beginning of the sentence, okay? That happens very frequently because in this case, for example, Kate is learning Italian. As we don't have anything at the beginning, if we transform this into a question, of course, verb to be will begin the sentence. But it's not a rule, okay? This is just a coincidence, all right? The rule is having verb to be before the subject. Let's see some example sentences, and I want you to repeat them after me, right? So, is Kate learning Italian? Watch out the intonation of your sentence. If you have a yes-no question, it means if your answer to the question can be either yes or no, it means that the intonation goes up. So, is Kate learning Italian? You need to make the intonation go up. We are working hard today. We are working hard today. I can't talk. I'm driving. I can't talk. I'm driving. What are you doing? What are you doing? Look, this is also a question, but differently from what happens in the first one, we can't answer this question by saying yes or no. Look, what are you doing? Yes. You see that it doesn't make much sense. In this case, we have a WH question, so we need to give a sentence that provides new information. So what are you doing? I'm working, I'm teaching, I'm dancing, I'm studying, I'm watching Netflix. I don't know. But the pronunciation, the intonation here is a little different. Totally different. So instead of rising the intonation here goes down. So, what are you doing? What are you doing? Is Kate learning Italian? Intonation goes up. What are you doing? And finally, it isn't raining today. It isn't raining today. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video, but more importantly, I hope you have understood this content. This is basic, but it's a little tricky. And I would suggest you study the spelling. This is important. If you have a CVC, double the last consonant. Intonation in questions, if you have a yes-no question, intonation is rising. If you have a WH question, intonation is falling. If you're using a pronoun like this in the affirmative, be sure to use the contracted version when you're speaking. This is for the affirmative and for the negative. And in questions, do not start every question by verb to be just because you think this is correct. No, be sure to put verb to be before the subject. Most cases it will start the sentence too, but in some others they won't. Okay, I think this is it for today. Oh, and the pronunciation, again, repeat after me. This is the pronunciation. We don't pronounce the G. Okay, working, studying, running, dancing, watching, having, looking, beginning. I hope you all have enjoyed. I hope you all have learned. Don't forget to do the activities that follow this video, okay? So, this is it for today. Send me your messages in case you have doubts. I hope you've enjoyed. Mwah! Kisses, kisses. See you in our next class.